Hello. Um, I'm doing my discussion on Victory Lap by George Saunders. So it's a short story that was in the book. Um, at first, the main character, her name was Allison, and at first I thought it was going to be about her celebrating her 15th birthday and, just like how the title says it's Victory Lap. So I thought it was going to be like, her achieving something great and um, the story just goes like very negative instead. So a little bit, just a quick summary of the story. She was about to celebrate her 15th birthday, and then she goes in depth about how she's treated in her house, how they have chores, how a point-based system to do chores, and that you know most houses I feel like that have point based systems for chores and to do like things in the house is very like a very strict household. So I can see hers being really strict. She also has a brother by the name of Kyle that is always in trouble in the house, that it seems like he's always like getting in trouble with the father. And it turns out that he likes to like cuss a lot. And I think that's like where like the like main point of view of the main thesis of the whole story comes into play, is that this brother of hers has some Tourette's, because it just like makes it throughout the story he's just like, even when he's getting in trouble from his parents, his father at one point is like, do you want me to take you like away from like your sport? And he's like, oh no, and then like cuss word, cuss word, cuss word. He's like, no, please, I'm sorry, cuss word, cuss word. So like he's not like doing it on purpose, but it's just coming out of him. And so yeah, that's like the beginning of like the mental health observation that I saw throughout this story. So then after that point, she transitions from talking about like her past to a moment where a stranger comes into her house, or rings the doorbell, and immediately takes Allison hostage with a knife. Her brother comes outside, and the stranger, tells him to back off, that he's gonna take her, and eventually they leave the premise of the household. Um, right here is when it starts to the symbolism of mental health starts to come back into the story. As the stranger takes her to the van, he's he begins talking to somebody, and when I'm reading this, I'm just like, okay, like like I thought he was by himself, like um it was it was weird to just like hear him like start talking to somebody else. I'm like, did I misread anything? But apparently no, like he just speaks to someone named Melvin out of nowhere. And this comes to like my next conclusion, that this person is also dealing with like a mental disorder, most likely schizophrenia, because he's really paranoid, talking to this person Melvin in his head that just appears out of nowhere, right? So then eventually he has a conversation with Melvin, and Allison's brother comes back and ends up throwing a rock at the stranger's head, knocking him over, and saving his sister. So when the stranger is knocked over, he's defenseless. Most likely has a concussion, because he just like he is saying in the story that he's dizzy and everything. And the brother is about to finish the stranger with the rock, but stops himself by hearing his sister scream. Um, and that's close to the end. So after that, it just skips forward, and it just says how Allison like begins to remember this finishes remembering this circumstance that happened, and she just begins to start crying, and a breakdown happens, and her brother comes, and her father and mother come to like support her, and that's pretty much how the story ends. It's just them supporting her at the very end, right? So I think that like um, just that whole set of like events, from it wasn't in chronological order, but just the way that the author wrote it, in that they start talking about like well, he brought his mentioning of like the brother and the cussing that he did, his mental issue, and then after that the mental issue of the stranger that like took a big role on her and everybody else, and then the mental state of herself at the very end. Like that was the whole like reoccurring theme of the whole thing, was the mental health of everybody in the situation, right? So I feel like that was the key observation here. One thing that I found interesting was just like the point of view changes, how, if y'all read it, the point of view changed very quickly from one person to the next, and there wasn't really much of like a hey, like this person's gonna talk next or stuff. It would just happen out of nowhere, so that was kind of a little difficult to like keep track of. So yeah, one example like here for the mental health of the stranger that ends up kidnapping her, on page 77, it says he's talking about how he has the van locked and he's gonna get her inside the van, and it says Melvin appeared in his mind. So right there, it just made it obvious, that he has a mental issue. Like people don't just appear in your mind out of nowhere. On Melvin's face was that look of hot disappointment that always preceded a butt whooping and da da da. So right there just proved my point. Put it in concrete that yeah, this guy did have a mental issue, and that it was a reoccurring thing in the story. So the questions I have is why one is why the parents were the way they were. At the end, they're very affectionate to her, but if you go back to the beginning of the story, they're strict parents. This also plays a role in like the mental health of her and her brother. So why are they so strict? Like what is the situation? Are they dealing with mental disorders as well? There's also references to Bean a lot in the story, which I don't even know what that meant. Yeah, so if y'all can help me with that. And also the time period, there's it sounds like it's like recent, but not like super recent. It's in like smartphones and like tablets and stuff like that, but it did sound like it never gave a precise reason in the story. So that just maybe that reasoning of the time period can also like give the answer to why the parents are so strict. So yeah, I think that's what I think of Victory Lap by George Saunders, and I hope it was as interesting to y'all as it was for me. Thank you.